Hello and welcome to Potterwatch from Page to Screen, episode 18. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Lucy.
Today we'll get a first look at the Weasleys' house, the Burrow.
Last time we started the Chamber of Secrets and escaped the Dursleys, but first let's take a look into the Sorting Hat. Today I'll be doing the Harry Potter question and Elizabeth's will be completely random. So Elizabeth, over to you.
Okay, I should preempt this with a little disclaimer for our listeners today. Me and Lucy usually do our recordings over a video Skype call, but a strange happening is going on in Lucy's end. We're not quite sure what it is, and we're just not able to do a video recording. So if we sound a bit off,
Weird.
yeah, it's because we can't see each other.
It
We
also
can't.
seems to be very delayed for some reason as well.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, this could be interesting. Stick with
Enjoy.
us. Yeah, enjoy. Okay, I've got my question now. Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay. Oh, and also I've got a wisdom tooth coming through, and it's incredibly painful, and it's I can't open my mouth very wide at the moment, so I might have a slight lisp. So if that's distracting, I do apologize. I am going to the dentist tomorrow, so hopefully it will get sorted out. Okay, right. Question time. If you could instantly fix one of your problems, what would it be? And it's like a problem like an injury or mental health or physical health or something. I know I've thought about this
kind of
before, so I
deep.
know what I would say.
Okay, you go first.
I
Then.
would fix my eyesight so I would never have to wear glasses or anything like that again.
Oh no, that's okay, when you asked that I was like, that's such a weird question. I have no idea. No, exactly the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a lot of people
Yeah.
would be like, if anyone is listening who's related to me, I've got asthma, and people would be like, why not asthma? But my asthma's like totally fine and better and curable, whereas eyesight is not curable.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
hate wearing glasses.
me too.
I mean, I
And
usually wear contacts, but I kind of hate wearing contacts too.
yeah, same. And my husband's eyesight is better than mine with glasses on, which just, that's just a real kick in the teeth right there.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
feels like,
No, absolutely.
yeah, it feels like he's making fun of me sometimes, but he's not. He's just like,
Yeah.
oh, could you, like, that sign over there says something really weird, and I'm like, I can't read it, and I've got my glasses on.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Well, that was
there we
quick.
go. Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
nice and easy. End.
Yeah.
Glasses,
Lovely.
eyesight. Cool.
Yeah, it's just so annoying.
It's such an
It's so
annoying,
annoying.
like, non-problem problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, lovely. Well, my question is, if you could have a food item from Harry Potter readily available from like Tesco or like the Co-op, and you could just nip down and grab it. And it doesn't have to be an item that you can buy like from the official shop, from the studio tour. It can be any Harry Potter food.
Okay.
Yeah, food.
Or beverage.
And yeah.
I mean, I don't want to be cliche, but I mean, butterbeer sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But I would only
Yeah.
want it like available from like Starbucks or like you know where you can get it hot.
Oh yeah, or like from the pub.
Yeah,
Yeah.
from the pub exactly. Because
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
would
why, but it's
really.
always served cold, and it really grinds my gears every time it's served cold. I'm like, it's
Actually,
a hot
okay,
drink.
I have to dispute this, okay?
Okay.
Because I used to think the same thing. I used to also think, and I remember talking to you and being like, "Yeah, it's so dumb. It's a hot drink." So okay, so why would you argue that it's a hot drink?
Well, every single time it's mentioned in the books when Harry drinks it, it says it warms him to every inch of his body and soul, basically. It's so warming that it warms his
Yeah.
very heart. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that could
No,
mean that it's
I
like spicy or something, but it never talks about
see.
that it's spicy.
The way I mean, it's very vague in its descriptions. I guess it's not. It's very much up for debate, I suppose. But
Yeah.
the way I kind of think about butterbeer, it's almost like apple cider or like that kind of thing, where like you can have it hot and you can have it cold. It's like a because they talk about it being like very low alcohol content, don't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
Even though like children drink it. So that's kind of how I imagine it. But it
Right.
does bother me that it's always served like a frappuccino.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like some people serve it with ice cream in the top.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
And
like
like
whether
it's
it's warm
always
or not,
like
it's supposed to be like a comforting,
yeah,
like
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 Harry.
cozy drink.
Yeah. Yeah. I always imagine it like kind of almost like a syrup, almost like you're drinking maple syrup
Mm,
or something. Like it's so sickly and
hmm.
um yeah, I don't know. That sounds gross, but I really love drinks like
Mm.
that that's just so sickly that you might as well just be drinking sugar. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um
I would, because I can't imagine what butterbeer tastes like if that
yeah.
makes any sense. So I would
Yeah.
love to have a drink that is like, the real thing or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. The
To
closest
be
that
able to
I've
taste
come
it.
to is something that my friend, one of my friends in high school made for me for my birthday. I think it was my birthday. I think we were doing a Harry Potter marathon, but just for like three films because we only had one day. Um, and she brought around this butterbeer, and it wasn't hot, but she made it with spices. And it literally like made me tingle all over because it was spicy. And I was
Right,
like, oh,
right.
that's the sensation. That's the sensation that he
Hmm.
experiences. So that's the closest I've come to. Or, or like my mum's made one that's like a hot chocolate but without the chocolate, like kind of like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
drinking
I think that's the one
caramel.
I've had before.
Yeah,
It's like butterscotch. You make like
yeah,
sugar
yeah,
and butter, and then just
yeah.
add milk to it,
But
basically.
basically, yeah, it's incredible.
It's
It's a
really good.
dessert in a mug. Yeah, so
Mm,
I guess like that one, but I don't want to sound really generic.
hmm.
I mean, but that's the safest one, isn't it? If I choose like Bertie Bott's every flavor beans, I
Yeah,
could like get like a vomit flavor, and I want to enjoy.
yeah, and also it's jelly beans. Like we have jelly
Yeah,
beans.
yeah, exactly. And like ones that I can
Yeah,
genuinely enjoy without worrying about tasting
yeah,
vomit or
yeah.
earwax. Let me see, what
Mm.
else do they have? Um, I'm drawing a
I
blank
feel
on
like I should have thought about this before.
yeah, maybe there's a list. Food and drink in
I'm trying to think of ones that are in the book that I really love, but that you can't buy, like
yeah.
from like official, like Harry Potter shops and stuff. The only
Oh,
ones I could think of,
Petunia's pudding. That's true. Petunia's
yeah.
pudding does look really good.
Um, the only other ones I can think of are Weasley's Wizard Wheezes products.
Yeah, but they sound a
Um,
bit, bit
yeah,
dubious.
yeah.
Like
That's
there's
not
like
really something I'd want to
canary
grab from the
creams, and
co-op.
it's like, but I don't want to explode into a canary. Oh, Drooble's best blowing gum. That's a good shout.
Mm, yeah,
Uh,
but then also it's just gum that
I
you can
know.
blow really good bubbles with.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I mean, there's chocolate frogs. And then, like, would you get the
Yeah.
moving picture if you got a chocolate, if you did chocolate
Oh,
frogs?
hmm. I guess so.
Hmm.
You know what? I probably would go chocolate frogs just because I think we spoke about this like a couple episodes ago. I just
Yeah.
really love them.
Yeah.
They're just
Oh,
like
oh,
they're just really
oh.
cool.
The Weasleys dragon roasted nuts sound really nice as well.
Oh, they do sound good, but also we
We
already
have
have
that.
roasted
Yeah.
nuts.
Cauldron
It's
cakes.
just not by a dragon.
Yeah.
Eh,
Cauldron
I
cake.
just imagine them like
I've never.
pancakes,
Yeah, same, but some people like do them differently, don't they? Like on in the
like
Universal.
cupcakes.
Yeah, I would want to know
It's
like
like a
surely
cupcake,
with
yeah.
this thing it would like be from like J.K. Rowling's mind, so it would be like what she imagined.
Yeah,
And although,
this is what I yeah.
yeah, although I don't want to like say, oh, that's automatically canon, I mean, but that would be the most interesting
Yeah.
um to discover, what was she thinking? What was she thinking?
What was yeah.
What was she
Although
thinking?
if I mean, we've already. It's a good job. It's a good job. The first one was very quick and decisive because
Yeah.
we're thinking about this way too much. It's not. It's not that deep.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I think I would go
I
for
don't know
chocolate
how
frogs
I'd
because
feel
then
about.
me and you would like be able
I
to
don't
swap the
know.
cards
I
and
don't know how I'd.
stuff.
Oh, that would be. Oh, that would be really cool if it was. Even if I just let the frog go free, because I don't know how I would feel about eating like a moving frog
Yeah, I don't know what the
chocolate.
thing is behind that.
Um,
Like maybe just as it touches
yeah,
your lips, it goes solid. I don't know. Weird.
maybe. But yeah, that would be cool to be able to actually like properly collect the chocolate frog cards.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
yeah.
gonna go chocolate frog.
Yeah, same. I'll go that with you, and then in this alternate universe, we can swap cards.
Perfect.
All right, so shall we jump into the episode?
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Yep.
So, we are going to be looking at the Burrow, but first we have to get out of the Dursleys' house. So right away we have quite a few differences. So when we left off with Ron peeking through the window, peeking through the bars in the window. And in the book, like they have like a full-on conversation. In the film, Harry asks why they're there, and Ron just says, "Rescuing you, of course," and tells Harry to get his trunk. Whereas in the book, they have a bit of longer conversation, as I said. So this is like a little snippet of that. And this is Ron speaking. "What's been going on?" said Ron. "Why haven't you been answering my letters? I've asked you to stay about 12 times, and then Dad came home and said you got an official warning for using magic in front of muggles." So yeah, and then it's revealed that Mr. Weasley works for the Ministry, and that's how he knows. So yeah, I just I find it funny to imagine them having like this super long conversation with like the engine like chugging in the background and Harry's like, my aunt and uncle are like literally sleeping in the next room. So I do think that the film like I with the situation, I
It
think
makes more sense.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um Ron then, of course, puts the rope onto the bars and pulls them away from the window. So in the film, that wakes the Dursleys up, of course, because it's like a crazy loud bang. But in the book, I don't know, maybe they've taken some sleeping pills or something, because it specifically says Harry listened anxiously, but there was no sound from the Dursleys' bedroom. Weird. Ron also explains how they're not flouting the underage magic law by flying a car. So it says, "Oh, this doesn't count," said Ron. "We're only borrowing this. It's Dad's. We didn't enchant it." I think that's quite a clever little loophole there. And then I think I remember later on, maybe in the next episode, actually, I'm like, oh, but how are they not flouting the law by flying their brooms? So maybe that's because, well, they didn't enchant the brooms, somebody else did. Maybe that's an allusion to that.
Yeah.
Also in the book, Fred and George come into the house to help Harry get his trunk because A, Harry is locked inside his bedroom and cannot use magic to get out, and B, all of his school supplies were locked away in his old cupboard and cannot magic them out. And the twins know how to pick locks. So,
Of course they do.
yeah, exactly. I love them for this. I love that they like
Hmm.
embrace this kind of muggle practice for just mischievery. So it says Fred and George climbed carefully through the window into Harry's room. You had to hand it to them, thought Harry, as George took an ordinary hairpin from his pocket and started to pick the lock. And then, whilst Fred and George creep around downstairs, Harry starts just like this is in the book. Harry starts just like chucking everything he needs for the year ahead, like out of the window to Ron, which just brings some great imagery to the mind.
Hmm.
I've never thought about this before, like how weird that is,
Hmm.
because the film makes so much more sense. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense because I mean, the Dursleys totally 100% would have locked his things away.
Yeah.
But like, just I don't know.
Just lobbing stuff out the window.
Yeah, like wait for your trunk and put your things in your trunk. I don't know. There's no time, I guess.
Hmm.
So Harry also seems to have super strength in the film, as he seems to pick up his fully packed trunk and puts it through the window by himself, no problem. This was quite odd to watch. I don't know whether you've watched this.
No.
So in the film, he like takes it by each end, like by the little handles, and just like
Oh
picks
yeah.
it
Yeah. Yeah.
clean up off the floor. It's like this huge trunk
Full of
that's
stuff.
seemingly full of like everything he needs. By the
Hmm.
way, that is odd as well that like he doesn't like fair enough, like the film just needs to be quick, but like show him putting a
Hmm.
few things in. Surely he's not just
Yeah.
always ready.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a small nitpicky problem.
Hmm. Hmm.
In the book, however, Harry is a normal human being, and it says that he, Fred, and George all have to push the trunk, and it takes a very long time. Like they have to like shove their shoulders up to it, and they're all panting, and um, you know, it's very hard work, basically. So then in the book, what actually wakes the Dursleys up in the end is Hedwig. Again, I think this is quite clever. You start off the book with like Hedwig
Hmm.
waking them up, and then she wakes them up again
Yeah.
for the last time. So, in absolute blind panic, Harry forgot to send Hedwig through the window, and Hedwig was like, dude, you forgot me. Your best friend, remember? Forget that ginger kid. It's all about me. Um, so it says, but as Harry climbed onto the windowsill, there came a sudden loud screech from behind him, followed immediately by the thunder of Uncle Vernon's voice. That ruddy owl! So in the film, we're kind of caught up with the film now. Vernon is slowed down by trying to unlock a series of bolts they've put onto Harry's door. Um, but in the book, there is never any mention of them putting these locks onto Harry's door. And the
Hmm.
only thing I could find is that it says he was locked in his room around the clock. So we can presume that the Dursleys just used the normal the normal lock on the door,
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
usually bedroom
I.
doors
I
have
mean,
a
I.
lock.
Yeah. Have that lot. I really like this. That they added this to the film. I think it's a fun little added moment of like tension of like going through all the locks, and
I guess so. Yeah, I do
I think
quite
it's
enjoy it.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite a trope, isn't it? Going through all of the locks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the book, because obviously Fred and George have already picked the lock open, Vernon like starts like hammering on the door and it just like crashes open because he probably doesn't realize that it's open, which again is quite a funny visual. It's like, I imagine it's that kind of feeling when you get when you step from the bottom step and you think that you've
Yeah.
already got, yeah, you think you've got one more to go, but you actually haven't. Um, I hate that feeling.
Yeah.
Vernon gripping Harry's ankle does happen in the book, but the Weasleys pull his ankle free before driving. But in the film, Vernon, of course, is pulled out of the window and falls to the ground, which is just
This
amazing.
bit, this bit always reminds me of. I'm not sure why. In the film, it always reminds me of in the first Toy Story when Buzz falls out the window into that bush
Oh yeah,
below the window.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
that those are like parallels in my mind.
yeah. That's true. Yeah, I've never made that connection before. That's funny.
I guess I probably watched them at similar times,
Oh
maybe.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
probably. Yeah. Toy Story was more of my brother's thing. I got into it a bit later. Um, yeah,
Right.
when it got more of like a cult following. So in the book, we get this absolutely stunning line from Harry. It says, Uncle Vernon, Aunt Petunia, and Dudley were all hanging dumbstruck out of Harry's window. See you next summer, Harry yelled. The Weasleys roared with laughter, and Harry settled back in his seat, grinning from ear to ear. Oh, so satisfying.
Yeah, it's such a like cathartic moment. Like after having this build up of him just being treated awfully and being
Yeah,
locked in his room, and then
yeah.
suddenly it's like, ah,
Yeah, I
he's done
mean,
it. Yeah.
it's kind of it's quite nice that they put that kind of feeling into the film. I mean, they might not have had that amazing line, but him falling into the bush is kind of the same
It's almost like, yeah,
effect.
exactly. It's almost like that visual moment replaces
Yeah,
that line in the film.
yeah, exactly. I think it's also worth noting as well that Harry immediately asks if somebody can pick Hedwig's lock so she can go out and fly. I did watch the whole scene in the film, and they just they just don't bother. They just leave her in
Just
there.
keep her in.
She deserves a bit more suffering. It's also explained that the Weasleys know about Harry's underage magic. Like, it's explained a little bit more. It's like it said again that their dad works at the ministry with Muggles, and Harry starts explaining everything that happened with Dobby, because Fred, like the Weasleys, just think he was messing around basically. Um, and Fred and George think it sounds like someone's playing a trick on Harry, and that what Dobby said about Voldemort coming back, etc., etc., isn't actually real. So I thought I'd read that bit from the book. It says, Well, said Fred, put it this way. House elves have got powerful magic of their own, but they can't usually use it without their master's permission. I reckon old Dobby was sent to stop you coming back to Hogwarts. Someone's idea of a joke. Can you think of anyone at school with a grudge against you? Yes, said Harry and Ron together instantly. Draco Malfoy, Harry explained. He hates me. So they all get on the Draco Malfoy train and think that because he's rich, he must have a house elf. And, spoilers, it is actually his, which I find quite funny that they're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's probably him, but, credit where credit is due. Dobby is very, very strong-minded, strong-willed, and he's done it all on his own. I wonder whether he waited for like a loophole, kind of like Creature did with Sirius, like get out, and he's like, I can use that.
Yeah, I
Um,
imagine. I imagine so.
yeah.
Because I don't think you physically would have been able to,
No,
really,
it's the magic
otherwise.
for elves is very complex, isn't it? Um, and they physically cannot do anything without somebody telling them to do something.
Right.
Yeah. But it's kind of like a be careful what you wish for, like with Sirius and Creature.
Yeah.
It always reminds me of like genie in a lamp kind of scenario, like be careful what you say. We this is my like one of my favorite subplots ever. We get an allusion to Percy's secret romance. Ooh. I don't know why this is included, but I absolutely love it. It has no use in the
Yeah,
books
it's such
whatsoever.
a weird, really specific
Yeah,
detail
yeah,
to throw in.
yeah, and she's never mentioned ever again. It's
Mm,
just really, I love it. So it says, Percy's been acting very oddly this summer, said George, frowning, and he has been sending a lot of letters and spending a load of time shut up in his room. So that's quite that's quite funny. Percy has a girlfriend, and we'll hear about it later. It's so funny. I think maybe it, she's kind of using it as a kind of thing with Ginny. Them Harry and Ron like think that Ginny's embarrassed about knowing about Percy and Penelope, isn't aren't they? Whereas Ginny
right. Oh,
is
yeah.
yeah. So it must have some use there.
Yeah, that's true. I completely forgot that was the, like, little. What's the word? Like, the red herring, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Although it's just such a weird little red herring. Anyway, um, and just before we arrive at the Burrow, we get to learn a little bit more about Mr. Weasley's job. It's never really fully explained or talked about much in the film. It just says like, oh, Dad loves Muggles. He thinks they're fascinating. And that's about it. So his full job title, he's in a department, but there's only one other person in his department. So he's kind of like co-head of the department, I guess, of the misuse of Muggle artifacts office. Um, and I just thought I'd read this it's a really fun little story about one of the things that can go wrong with the misuse of Muggle artifacts. This is one of my favourite little stories about his work. So it says, it's all to do with bewitching things that are Muggle made, you know, in case they end up back in a Muggle shop or house. Like, last year some old witch died and her tea set was sold to an antiques shop. This Muggle woman bought it, took it home and tried to serve her friends tea in it. It was a nightmare. Dad was working overtime for weeks. What happened? The teapot went berserk and squirted boiling tea all over the place, and one man ended up in hospital with sugar tongs clamped to his nose. Dad was going frantic. It's only him and an old warlock called Perkins in his office, and they had to do memory charms and all sorts to cover it up. But your dad, this car, Fred laughed. Yeah, Dad's mad about everything to do with Muggles. Our shed's full of Muggle stuff. He takes it apart, puts spells on it, and puts it back together again. If he raided our house, he'd have to put himself straight under arrest. It drives Mum mad. So yeah, that's quite a clever little nod to what's going to happen next episode. Yeah, and we're at the Burrow now, so I'll hand over to Lucy.
Alrighty, thank you very much.
Woohoo! You're welcome.
So, yeah, first things first, we have the description of the Burrow in the book compared to in the film. So, in the book, we have this description of the Burrow. It looked as though it had once been a large stone pigsty, but extra rooms had been added here and there until it was several stories high and so crooked it looked as though it was held up by magic, which, Harry reminded himself, it probably was. 4 or 5 chimneys were perched on top of the red roof. A lopsided sign stuck in the ground near the entrance read, "The Burrow." Round the front door lay a jumble of Wellington boots and a very rusty cauldron. Several fat brown chickens were pecking their way around the yard. "It's not much," said Ron. "It's brilliant," said Harry happily, thinking of Privet Drive. Oh, I love the Burrow.
Yeah, me
Makes me so
too.
happy.
Yeah, me too.
It's very sweet.
I've one of my
and
favourite
yeah,
drawings that I've done is of the Burrow, like a dollhouse cross section of the Burrow.
yeah. Yeah. It's such a cool, like, I don't know, the idea of it looking impossible. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, uh-huh.
defying physics. And I
Defying
think, I mean,
gravity.
that's exactly where my mind went. I was like, don't say gravity. Don't say gravity. um, yeah, I mean, I think the film does a good job. To be honest, I think it could be a bit more gravity defying, but
Yeah,
I
but I
think
do
it
like
looks
that, like, it kind of
fun.
is propped up with two very small
Mm,
sticks, and it's kind of got this like
yeah, yeah,
zigzag. It's kind of like the shape of Harry's scar, on top of the
yeah.
main pigsty. Um,
Hmm.
I quite like that she says it looks like a pigsty because, a lot of people say that, oh, you must live in a pigsty kind of thing. It's a very derogatory.
But they
They
actually
literally
do.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of like converting that kind of thing into a house. It's
Hmm.
so fun. And I think, yeah, I agree. I do think they did quite a good job. Obviously,
Mm,
there's more things that they could do with it. I've just done a
yeah.
Google image search for the Burrow, and the third one that comes up is easily my favorite. It's kind of a very, very cartoony version of the one in the film. But it's got a very pointed
Hmm.
roof and very it's just a lot more pointed. I think that's what my main
Mm,
gripe about the film one is that it's quite boxy.
yeah, yeah. I feel like the in Harry Potter, I mean, obviously you have that like Hogwarts, which is all like
Uh-huh.
super pointy turrets, and
Uh-huh.
I feel like in general the films are not pointy enough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
Like
you get like
they,
tall piles of things, and this just
mm,
feels too clunky to be a tall pile of things.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
you want
I agree.
like chimneys sticking out of places that shouldn't have chimneys sticking
Hmm.
out of. Like it
Yeah, and
almost
like
makes
in the
too
wrong
much
direction, and
sense. Yeah,
yeah,
because
yeah,
you've got
yeah.
like the
I
main chimney
agree.
coming up in the middle of the L-shaped add-on at the top, and it's kind of
Mm.
all based around this one chimney, and it's like it literally says very specifically
It
it
feels,
has 5 or 6 chimneys. No,
mhm.
4 or 5,
It feels a
sorry,
bit
four or
less.
five.
Mhm. It feels a bit less improvised than
Uh-huh.
like it feels like it was all built at once rather than
Yeah,
added
like
on
added
as
on
they
over
went.
time,
You know.
like, oh, we've got another
Yeah.
kid. Let's add this bit on. Oh, we've got another
Hmm.
kid.
One
Like,
room. Yeah.
yeah, like I don't know whether you've ever seen Howl's Moving Castle.
I've seen pictures of the castle,
Yeah,
but
so I mean, obviously, I don't want the Burrow to look like that because it's a bit too much. But it just kind
hmm
of it has little bits just put like slapped on here and there. Oh gosh, my lisp
hmm
is really bad. Sorry, I'm in a lot of pain. Um, and it's just generally a lot more higgledy-piggledy. A lot. This is the kind of
yeah,
look that I would.
and not with any like structural
No,
logic,
yeah,
just
it doesn't
kind
make
of
any sense at all. Like,
whacked on with
yeah,
magic.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Harry says, it probably is held up by magic. And that's the kind of
Hmm.
thing you want to see. And they were like, oh no, but it has to make sense. And it's like, no, it doesn't. You're literally making
Yeah.
a set. You could literally make it out of cardboard. You doesn't have to make any.
Hmm.
You could make it on the computer.
Mm.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have to make any sense at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
all in all, I think they did, yeah, a
the
pretty good job.
atmosphere of it, like the homeliness and the
Yeah,
character, I think they did a really
yeah,
good
I
job of
think
that.
the inside, yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah,
subverts
I have a
all
lot of notes on
expectations.
the inside
Yeah,
for the Marauders map. Because the I mean we'll talk about that later, but yeah, I think they did a good job. Like it's
yeah,
good.
yeah. They used some imagination,
Um,
but they could have used a bit more. Basically,
yeah,
for the
what we're saying
outside,
is
for
it
the
would be better
outside.
if we did it. We're saying we should have made all the Harry Potter movies, and then it would be
No,
fine.
I think I
um,
would have been terrible.
yeah,
I mean,
but
I have done a drawing
yeah.
of the burrow that I am really, really proud of, but It's like
Hmm.
literally a line drawing. It's not, you couldn't use it for a
Hmm.
film.
Yeah. Um,
Uh,
so in the film, Mrs. Weasley finds the boys in the kitchen, but in the book, it's a little bit different. It says, Mrs. Weasley was marching across the yard, scattering chickens, and for a short, plump, kind faced woman, it was remarkable how much she looked like a saber toothed tiger. Ah, said Fred. Oh dear, said George. Mrs. Weasley came to a halt in front of them, her hands on her hips, staring from one guilty face to the next. She was wearing an apron with a wand sticking out of her pocket. So, she said. Morning, Mum, said George, in what he clearly thought was a jaunty, winning voice.
oh no, no, no.
Um, I I mean, I love the this exchange and the dialogue in the film is incredible. It's perfect. But I
Yeah.
do love the visual of her like marching, being like, "Wow, look at this beautiful, magical, incredible house that I haven't seen anything like this before.
Yeah, and
Wow,
then
it's
you have
so
like
so
this kind
cool." And
of
then you just see
record
this little
scratch
woman,
sound. Yeah.
yeah,
Where
just
have
marching
you
towards
been?
you. Bed's
Bed's
empty, no
empty.
note,
No note.
car.
Car gone. You could have
Yeah,
died. You could have been
the
seen.
you could have been seen. Yeah, the dialogue is just
Yeah.
like it's just
You
perfect.
know, I came
Yeah,
home from
it's amazing.
school once when it wasn't like a usual day that my parents would have been out, and they randomly went out because it was a really nice day and hadn't told me. I had come
Mm.
out, I had come back quite late. So it was like after kind of dinner time, and they came back, and I stormed down and literally did. I looked up her speech. I watched it, memorized it, and did the whole thing. It was so satisfying. My mum was like, "Okay, I'm sorry, but that was amazing." Oh dear. I was
Uh,
over the age of 16, I might add. For those listening
mm.
that might be worried.
Yeah, it wasn't. As we're saying, her lecture is it was very similar to the book,
hmm
although Mrs. Weasley does compare them to the older brothers in the book,
hmm
which is, I mean, that's kind of an ongoing theme for Ron, particularly, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he puts that on himself a lot as well.
Hmm. Yeah, it says in the book, it seemed to go on for hours. Mrs. Weasley had shouted herself hoarse before she turned on Harry, who backed away. Very pleased to see you, Harry dear, she said. Come in and have some breakfast.
Oh my word. Is it Julie Walters? She
Hmm.
the kind of split second change from them to Harry
Mm.
was just so perfectly done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the like we keep saying it, but this little scene in the film is like maybe one of my favorite in terms of book to film, adaptation. Like
Yeah, yeah, I
it's just
think like
great.
with Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, you can't go that wrong because the actors themselves,
Hmm.
they just are the characters. You couldn't get much
Mm.
closer.
Hmm.
Well, in my
Yeah,
opinion, anyway.
particularly Julie Walters.
Yeah, yeah, um,
She's absolutely perfect.
yeah, definitely. Who's the what's the guy's name?
Um, I do know it. I can't remember.
Oh, Mark Williams.
Um, uh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Um,
he does a thumping good job as well. I think
yeah.
his role is a bit more challenging because he's not
Mm.
as described, I guess,
Yeah,
as well
yeah.
described in the books.
His when he gets really enthusiastic about
Yeah.
them stealing the car, though, that's
Yeah,
one of my
that's
favorite
just
moments.
perfect. Yeah. I mean, I keep on saying like, well, I used to keep on saying like, oh, this is the worst film out of the bunch. But as I'm doing this reread and rewatch, it I'm struck by how much I'm enjoying it.
Mm,
They do a really good
I'm
job.
converting you to a Chamber of
Well,
Secrets
but like
stan.
I'm a sucker for good adaptation, and this, to be honest,
Mm,
compared to, well, my list was just off the charts. I do apologize. I'm not doing it on purpose. Compared to the first one, right now, this is like completely winning
mm. Yeah,
to
the
me
first one is
anyway.
by far my least favourite film.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well,
Mm,
we shall see, I guess. Maybe my opinion will have
mm.
changed to that as well.
Yeah,
Because it's
yeah,
not that different.
I hope so.
My in my list of favorite to least favorite, number one is second least favorite, so it's not that it
Mm.
doesn't really
The
change a
problem
lot.
with the first one is everyone loves it, but I think people only love it because of, like, I think if anyone actually like properly sat and watched it,
Uh-huh.
they'd be like, "Oh, this isn't very good," because it's like it's the first one, and it was only 2001, and
Yeah, they didn't
like
have a
you
lot of
know, and all
budget.
the acting is kind of bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They didn't have a lot of time either.
yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we get a first glimpse of Mrs. Weasley's famous magical clock.
Sorry,
That
I'm laughing because it's
it's
my obsession.
yeah, we'll get there. Don't worry.
Okay.
Um,
I do
it's very
apologize.
different. It's very different to the clock in the book. The book to film, it's quite a lot of difference. So, as described in the book, the clock on the wall opposite him, being obviously Harry, had only one hand and no numbers at all. Written around the edge were things like "time to make tea," "time to feed the chickens," and "you're late." So, this clock in the book, to the best of our knowledge, is never mentioned again, ever.
Yeah, I've
Um,
asked I've even asked which Reddit is it in? R/Harry Potter books, and nobody can find it.
mhm,
Loads of people are like, oh, but it's
mhm.
mentioned afterwards. And I'm like, no, I need to know whether it's mentioned in this book. And
Yeah,
nobody can see. And
to give a
afterwards,
page
actually,
number.
yeah, and
Yeah,
actually afterwards,
yeah.
not for this
The
clock. For
yeah
for all intents and purposes,
the
it ceases to exist after this paragraph.
yeah the clock that you see in the Chamber of Secrets movie with the like spoon looking things
I think they were,
is
didn't we
described.
hear in the studio tour that they were scissor handles?
Oh, maybe, yeah,
Like old ornate scissor
yeah.
handles. I
I
seem to
forgot
remember
about that, but
hearing
that
that from
rings a
one of
bell.
the people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds familiar. So it is described in the books, but for the first time it's described in the Goblet of Fire. But the way it reads as though Harry has seen it before. It says, Mrs. Weasley glanced at the grandfather clock in the corner. Harry liked this clock. It had 9 golden hands. Each of them was engraved with one of the Weasley family's names. And that's in chapter 10, Mayhem at the Ministry of the 4th book, Goblet of Fire. And yeah, it's also fun to note that the clock in the film says dentist, even though wizards don't go to the dentist. So
Yeah.
and they that wouldn't bother me too much because it could be like, oh, maybe they do in the film universe, but they even make a joke about it in the 6th movie
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
Hermione's like, my parents are dentists, and everyone's like, what?
What's that? Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah,
I mean, as well, like the thing that like, oh, Harry has already seen it. Yeah, of course he's already seen it. Like I was talking about this with my mum to see if she had anything to say, because obviously in mine and Lucy's families, my mum is the oracle of all Harry Potter knowledge.
knowledge master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if I can't find something, it's usually her that we go to. Well, sorry, if me and Lucy can't find something, it's usually her that we go to. Um, and she was like, well, to be fair, if it's in the Weasley's house, Harry would have already seen it, wouldn't he? He would have, and that's a good point, but it's like it's just so weird. It's just so strange. That she would have just been
Because we
like,
as the reader
oh,
haven't
just
seen it.
yeah, exactly. Just forget about that. I like this idea instead. It's
Yeah,
kind
it
of like
feels
she's
like
just like, I've thought of a better one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So as Elizabeth said, she asked Reddit what they thought, and there was a response from Paper Owl, with the O being a zero, I think,
Yeah.
who said, Chamber of Secrets says the clock has one hand, in Goblet of Fire it has nine. Just another JKR inconsistency. She's so reliant on retcon that she once had to republish a book to fix a mistake. So
Boo.
yeah, I mean, it seems like she was just like, I want to change it, and changed it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I mean, another one, I got more comments after I wrote this script, and I'll just read
mhm,
the end of another one as well. It says, I think there were two different clocks. As said in Goblet of Fire, it was a grandfather clock. Also in Half-Blood Prince, it's said to be a large clock kept on a pile of sheets. In the Chamber of Secrets, the clock is said to be on the opposite wall, i.e., it's a wall clock, while the one mentioned in Goblet of Fire and Half-Blood Prince is a grandfather clock. It explain that explains why the different number of hands is mentioned, which I don't think it does, but anyway. As we can see, both
mm,
clocks serve different purposes as well. Blah blah blah. It says might be J.K. Rowling included the clock as a later addition in Goblet of Fire as for some future purpose. Like a lot of people talk about, like, oh, they needed the
mm,
mortal peril thing, and that was important.
yeah.
And it wasn't mentioned by Harry in Chamber of Secrets because he didn't really think
Hmm.
that it was noteworthy or anything. But like, come on, it's a clock with nine hands.
Yeah.
That would be noteworthy. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
one other comment. So that was really nice. They quoted a lot of they did a lot of work into their comment as well. That was
Hmm.
from 2000200124. So thank you for that. If you happen to be listening, somebody else just said, yeah, it's talked about. The one with nine hands is just talked about a lot, several times,
Hmm.
in Order of the Phoenix. So
Yeah.
yeah, and that was uh, Neon Moth 229. Cool username. Um, so yeah, everyone seems to be.
Shout out to you, Neon Moth.
We can't do this again.
um,
So yeah, thanks Reddit for basically confirming that there is a problem with that and it's
mhm.
weird.
Yeah, basically the conclusion is that something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's not quite right there.
Yeah.
Another good point that Elizabeth has made is that the movie release date for the Chamber of Secrets was the 3rd of
Oh
November
yeah.
2002, and the book release for Goblet of Fire was the 8th of July 2000. So another possible, the most likely explanation, I think, for this clock in the film is that the filmmakers, the director, art department, whatever, just had read Goblet of Fire and preferred the second clock,
Yeah.
um, than the one that's mentioned in Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's a
maybe
lot more
if by that
memorable.
point
Maybe they
they,
just made a mistake
yeah,
and didn't realize
yeah,
that, oh, that
yeah,
one's not actually
that it
mentioned
had
in this
changed.
book. Yeah. If
Yeah,
somebody's doing like a
essentially.
read
And
along, like book, read the book, watch the film, read the book, watch the film, this is gonna look weird.
mhm. Yeah. And I suppose by that point they'd already, well, I guess not, but well, I suppose the books, I mean, had kind of established that it was going in a darker direction. So maybe even by that point they wanted to have
Yeah.
that be able to preempt that mortal peril
Yeah,
thing,
even though,
possibly.
do they
Um,
even have that clock in the films
I
afterwards?
don't.
I don't remember it ever being in the
No,
films again.
no, they don't. I think maybe
That's kind of
I think it's
hilarious.
on the set, but it's
Yeah,
never a like a moment. Yeah.
yeah. Ugh,
Which is weird.
it's
It's one
so
of those
weird.
things that's like I love. It's so cool, but it's just a bit of an afterthought, really, in the
Yeah,
films,
it's like
particularly.
I always really hate it when she talks about, she being J.K. Rowling, talks about Quidditch and like there are thousands of students in the stands and it's like, but there are literally 20 people in each year. What?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's, I
Give
mean,
or
it's a
take a
weird
few
one. That's
students.
a, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is weird. Yeah.
Speaking of students,
Nice.
we we meet Ginny again. In the film, she looks utterly terrified of him. Like,
It's
I don't know,
so
it's a bit,
weird.
it's really strange in the film.
I wonder if
Mummy, have you
that's
seen my
Bonnie
jumper? And
Wright
then
or
she just,
like, yeah, or like the
yeah, or
just
the
weird
director.
direction. Yeah. Because, like, why would
Yeah,
she was
it's,
surely like 11-ish when that was filming? Like, why would an
yeah,
11-year-old make such an odd choice? Such a bold
yeah.
choice.
I mean, to be fair, it was definitely bold, yeah. Even in the book, saying that she gave a small squeal and run out, it's really, like, it's really strange to me, because even if you are really, like, shy and, like, nervous and like, overwhelmed, if anything, you're just gonna
Run
be very
and not
quiet and,
be,
like,
yeah,
avoid people
not be vocal. I
and
mean, I
not
guess,
draw attention to
yeah.
yourself.
Ginny, though, is described as like talking a lot, so maybe she just can't help but
Hmm.
vocalize.
Maybe that's true. So yeah,
But it's a bit of a
in the
poor,
book,
poor excuse, to be honest.
yeah, it's a bit weird. In the book, it says she gave a small squeal and ran out again, as I mentioned. And Ron comments saying, "Ginny, my sister, she's been talking about you all summer."
I love in the film
Which,
like the
yeah,
little smirk that Fred and George give as well. Like
yeah,
they kind of glance
yeah,
to each other like, yeah,
it's,
we know what that's about.
yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it's still like I love Harry and Ginny, but sometimes when I reread or watch the early films, I'm like, I can't believe, like, good for you, Ginny,
Yeah, I
you
mean, in
won.
the books it's like a really sweet like kind of growth, whereas in the film it's just kind of
Yeah,
creepy.
it is a bit, it's a bit weird. It's like my number one
Yeah,
fan.
it's like,
Like,
yeah, it's
okay,
literally him marrying his number one fan. Like, ew.
mm,
Who would do that?
yeah, yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah.
Um, and then we get to experience a bit of wizard housekeeping in the form of denoming, which is entirely omitted from the film, unfortunately, because it's one of my favourite moments
Yes.
in all of Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, I can get why
Um,
they like the budget for this
yeah,
scene
it's,
alone would be like astronomical.
yeah,
Like like they would need so many people to problem solve for that for that scene.
yeah, it would take a lot of effort
Yeah.
for not that much payoff.
Yeah.
So it says, "This is a gnome," he said grimly. Get off me!" squealed the gnome. It was certainly nothing like Father Christmas. For context, Ron describes Muggle gnomes as Father Christmas-looking little people.
Yeah.
It was small and leathery looking, with a large, knobbly, bald head exactly like a potato. Ron held it at arm's length as it kicked out at him with its horny little feet. He grasped around the ankles and turned it upside down. And then he proceeds to, like, lasso it and throw it over the garden's hedge.
That's
Which,
so
do you
good.
remember the Pottermore,
Yes.
like, level, the Pottermore game of
Yes.
denoming, where
That
you
was
had
like
to,
my
and it was like
favorite
you had to,
bit.
yeah, me
That's
too. I
so
loved it. And you had
good.
to, like, try and get it past the tree stump and stuff. It was really
Yeah.
difficult. I mean,
Yeah,
I
it
found
was
it quite
so
difficult.
hard.
Um,
I replayed
yeah,
it so many times though because I found it so fun.
yeah.
Oh dear.
Um, I
I love the
miss.
whole concept is just so hilarious. I don't know how like
Mm,
sometimes her imagination is just like where is your imagination? But often it's like out of this world how she comes up
mm,
with these kinds
like,
of
yeah,
things.
it's very strange. Um, so denoming is how the book segues into mentioning Gilderoy Lockhart as Mrs. Weasley, has one of his books called Gilderoy Lockhart's Guide to Household Pests. She says, "Oh, he is marvellous," she said. "He knows his household pests, all right. It's a wonderful book." "Mum fancies him," said Fred, in a very audible whisper. "Don't be so ridiculous, Fred," said Mrs. Weasley, her cheeks rather pink. I mean, this is another bit that translates very well to the film. That bit later in the film as well, where she like stumbles
Yeah.
as she's trying to
Yeah,
get
and
it
she's
get
like
the
pats
book
her
signed.
hair like
Yeah, yeah. Then, after having all these fun little moments with Mrs. Weasley, we get to properly meet Mr. Weasley for the first time.
I can't remember whether we met him whether you kind of get to see him at the end at platform 9 3/4 of the last book. I can't remember, but yeah, this is the first
I
time
don't
it's like
remember. Yeah,
he's properly there.
yeah. It says in the book, Mr. Weasley was slumped in a kitchen chair with his glasses off and his eyes closed. He was a thin man, going bald, but the little hair he had was as red as any of his children's. He was wearing long green robes which were dusty and travel-worn. Which, oh, I like
I
that
mean,
description. I think it's
yeah,
really sweet.
yeah. Apart from his long, thin nose, he's absolutely perfect. But I actually
Yeah.
really like
I
his
like,
nose in the film.
what,
I
in the
like that
film?
I like that it's kind of
I
like a little tomato on the end of his nose. I think
I
it's
just
kind
really
of
like the
cute.
description of him having a long thin nose in the book, because that's exactly how I imagine Ron. So I
Yeah.
like the idea of there being quite a lot of resemblance there.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Um,
true.
I think that's nice. So then, I mean, obviously the iconic line "9 raids, 9" is in the film is taken directly from the book. And
Morning,
as Mr.
Weasleys!
Weasley as Mr. Weasley was talking about what's happened at work, he says something that then brings up the whole enchanted car incident. He says, "But the things our lot have taken to enchanting, you wouldn't believe, like cars, for instance." Mrs. Weasley had appeared, holding a long poker like a sword. Mr. Weasley's eyes jerked open. He stared guiltily at his wife. "Cars, Molly dear."
Oh, so cheeky, I love it. What?
Yeah,
Cars?
yeah. It's there, as well as them. Those actors being their characters really well. Their dynamic in the film, particularly,
Yeah.
is really great.
Yeah, they have great chemistry.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Mr. Weasley is also far more observant in the film. He notices Harry immediately. In the book, Mrs. Weasley has to actually mention Harry for him to even notice that he's in his own house. After
Yeah.
that, what is said is very similar. In the book, it says, "He looked around, saw Harry, and jumped. Good Lord, is it Harry Potter? Very pleased to meet you. Ron told us so much about your sons flew that car to Harry's house and back last night," shouted Mrs. Weasley. "What have you got to say about that, eh?" "Did you really?" said Mr. Weasley eagerly. "Did it go all right? I mean," he faltered as sparks flew from Mrs. Weasley's eyes. "That was very wrong, boys. Very wrong indeed."
Oh, so good.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Pretty
You
great.
know, for a really long time before I realised, because obviously I had no idea that Harry lives in Surrey. And because I was, a young person, I didn't know that it just didn't register to me that Surrey was a place. So I thought she meant like it in a way. I mean, I don't know whether this is like a word or anything, but I thought it was a word to mean like to kind of hustle him back, so I thought he said like to surrey him last to surrey him last night. I thought that's what she
Oh.
said. It's,
Mm.
I don't know, the things I come up with.
It's like Lemon 2.0.
Yeah, yeah. I can't remember. I can't think
Wow.
of the word that I would be trying to compare that to.
No, I think I kind of know what you mean. Like just as like a verb
Yeah,
rather than a
yeah.
place.
I thought that she was like saying, your sons drove that car to Surrey him back last night. That
To yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, to Surrey him back.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. I was just like, well, surely this means this.
That must be the answer. Yeah.
Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent.
Okay. Mr. Weasley's iconic line in the films. What exactly is the function of a rubber duck? Isn't in the book, unfortunately, which is
Yeah.
why the film is a million times better. In fact, it's just this one line
Yeah.
that does that. Um, and then here in the film, they move on to getting the school supplies lists from Errol and then going to Diagon Alley. But in the book, we spend a bit more time exploring the house and spending some time with the Weasleys, which I love. I love
Yeah,
it.
me
I
too.
love summers at the Burrow. They're just my
Yeah.
favourite. I love
Yeah.
it. Love
Same.
it. And we get a clue as to what Ginny's usual character is like from Ron saying, "You don't know how weird it is to see her be this shy. She never shuts up normally." And as
I
someone
love
with
that.
younger siblings, I can empathise. I can empathise with Ron.
As
Uh,
someone who is the youngest sibling, I can confirm this is 100% accurate. It was just me annoying my two older
um,
brothers for 18 years. Well, not that they're dead
we
now,
get
but
to.
we all moved out.
I don't think anyone was assuming that, but thanks for the
Yeah,
clarification.
just in
Just yeah,
case.
they're not dead,
Yeah,
but
just in case we've got the
um,
morbidly minded listening.
yeah. We also get to see inside Ron's room. It says in the book, it was like walking into a furnace. Nearly everything in Ron's room seemed to be a violent shade of orange. Then Harry realised that Ron had covered nearly every inch of the shabby wallpaper with posters of the same 7 witches and wizards, all wearing bright orange robes, carrying broomsticks, and waving energetically. This is, of course, Ron's favourite Quidditch team, the Chudley Cannons. Woo-hoo.
Yoo-hoo! Sorry, that was a weird.
I just got a pop-up that was telling me something I didn't know what it was telling me, but it's fine.
I like sorry, I don't want to interrupt again,
Mm-hmm.
but I like that in the one of the later books it mentions that like his whole room clashes so horribly with his hair. I really like
Yeah,
that little
yeah.
detail.
it's it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ron has a comic book series which is called The Adventures of Martin Miggs the Mad Muggle, and a fish tank full of frog spawn and a pack of self-shuffling playing cards, which, oh, could you imagine?
I
Do you
know.
think they're self-unshuffling as well?
Ugh,
Probably
yes.
not. That would be great.
That would be so good. Like
I
just
would love that.
them playing solitaire by themselves. That would be great.
Yeah,
Be so
that would.
satisfying.
Oh, I can really imagine that as well. Like when you leave them out, if you don't tidy them up, they just start,
Oh yeah, they just
making up
start making a
games.
game. Yeah,
That
that
would be
would be
so
so
fun.
cool. Yeah. I love
That's
those
something
little
I
like
can see.
yeah, I love those little snippets of magical world.
Magic, just every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
What stuff that's every day for, like for the Weasleys, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And then to round off the chapter, we get this very lovely interaction between Harry and Ron, which I will now read. It's a bit small, said Ron quickly. Not like that room he had with the muggles, and I'm right underneath the ghoul in the attic. He's always banging on the pipes and groaning. But Harry, grinning wildly, said, "This is the best house I've ever been in." Ron's ears went pink.
I mean, don't take it that compliment like that well, Ron, because he's literally been in Privet Drive
Yeah,
and
that's
the
true.
Shack
That's true. That's true.
and
Yeah,
Hogwarts. So, I
that's a
mean,
fair point.
saying that it's better than
Hmm.
Hogwarts, but Hogwarts is a school, not a house.
I
So,
would say Hogwarts is a house, though.
yeah.
Yeah, he's been in Gryffindor.
Hey!
Oh dear. Um, yeah, I really love this chapter. It's one of the
Yeah, me
best ones,
too.
isn't it? The burrow.
Yeah,
It's very sweet.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So that's it for that chapter. And now it's time to have a little explore of the Marauders map.
Yay, we haven't
So
opened the
obviously
Marauders
for
map
this
for so
episode,
long.
I know. Because we've just been in the same place.
Yeah, we've just been in Hogwarts.
Obviously,
Gross.
yeah, yeah, and then Privet Drive again.
Uh-huh.
Hogwarts gross. I just registered what you said.
Cringe.
So yeah, ew. Um, so the location for the borough was an area of marshland near the Dorset village of Abbotsbury. I would imagine that's pronounced. Which Ottery St Catchpole is the village in Harry Potter, and that is supposed to be Dorset, isn't it? So
Oh, I honestly can't
that's
remember, but I think it's pretty
I
perfect. It's
think it
pretty
is.
spot on.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like a Cornwall area. The Stuart Craig, I think, the production designer, said that he liked the flatness of the landscape and how it made the borough and how tall and vertical the house was really stand out. So I think that's quite interesting. And obviously you
Yeah.
have all the the reeds and the water, which is really lovely.
Yeah,
And obviously
I
that really
never
comes into
really.
play in the sixth movie.
Let's not talk about that. um, yeah,
Um,
I never realized that the kind of implications of like the it's all flat and then it's just kind of this weird
mhm.
structure jutting out of this flat landscape. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I like even like seeing these things that like you don't really notice, but because they've put thought
You
into
like
it.
feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, you're not supposed to watch it and go, oh wow, look, that house is sticking out in a flat landscape. Isn't that interesting? But it makes it visually stick out more than if you had
Yeah.
loads of like high, than it was like in a valley or something,
Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, I mean that's it for the location because it's just the same one spot, obviously. Stuart Craig, who is the production designer for the Harry Potter films, said that the starting point for the borough was the mention of it being a pigsty, and he decided that maybe the borough had once been a small Tudor building with a pigsty on the side, and that's kind of it started as that, and then things were built around that original building, which I
Okay,
think is quite interesting.
yeah.
Um, and Chris Columbus, who's obviously the director of the first two movies, said that the exterior of the house determined the interior, so the floors and ceilings and stairs are all, a little slanted and nothing's totally perfect, which I think is really, really sweet, very cute.
Yeah, I mean,
And then
I
one of
no, you carry on.
no, I'm just reading bullet points now.
I was
So
just gonna say, I I just think that although the outside isn't 100% spot on, the inside totally is. In my
yeah,
opinion,
I
in my
100%
opinion.
agree. I think the Burrow is one of the best sets in
Yeah,
the whole series
yeah,
because it's just exactly how I imagined it,
yeah.
and more than that, it's like exactly how I imagined it would feel.
Yeah, and it's a testament to how good it is that it never really changes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Feels. I mean, apart from like,
little, yeah, little things change, but not the general feel of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I think the choice to keep it very earthy and like very orangey colours to obviously
Uh-huh.
mirror the Weasley's red hair, like
Yeah.
through the costume as well, and then also taking that into into their house. I think that was a very, I mean, yeah, very smart move.
Yeah, I mean I remember flipping it, what's his name? Mr. Weasley, man. Mark Williams. I remember Mark
Hmm.
Williams saying in the sixth one that when he saw the set that had been like newly dressed for the sixth film, he immediately saw the little white cushion. Um, and he absolutely hated it. He was like, "How did this get past whoever is in charge here?
Mm.
Like, this just doesn't fit at all." And they were like, "Oh, we
Hmm.
thought it was kind of weird and just so out of place that it's kind of in place, kind of thing." And because they said that, he
Hmm.
kind of loved it. And that's why he picks it up and kind of hugs it because he just,
Oh, that's such a fun little
yeah, he just had this like weird love-hate relationship with this
attachment.
little pillow.
Yeah.
He loved it and
I
hated
do
it at the
agree
same
with him though
time.
that Mrs. Weasley would never buy a white cushion.
No, I mean, the only thing that I can think of is that it's an old t-shirt of one of theirs and she repurposed it into a pillow.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
only
very
thing.
impractical though.
Yeah, it is.
White anything is very
Yeah,
impractical.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
It really makes me
So
anxious when you
then one
see
of
those like modern houses that's like
yeah,
all white and like
hmm,
pale grey, and
white
it's like,
everything.
do you
Yeah,
realise what's going
yeah.
to happen when you eat spaghetti bolognese?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. One of my favorite details about the Burrow set is that every step on the stairs has a different carpet,
Oh, really?
which I think is yeah, yeah. So I like it feels like they've maybe like the offcuts from the kids' rooms they've like used that on one step and like they found a bit from somewhere else and they've used that on another. It's like patchwork stairs, which I think is very
Oh,
cool.
oh, cool. I'm
Um,
just trying to have a look, but there's
yeah,
obviously,
I don't know if there's a photo of it.
yeah, as usual, you can't really get like a good proper shot of the staircase. I mean,
Mm,
when do you actually ever see it?
I don't know. It might be one of those things that this most of this information is from my film wizardry book that I got
From,
when I was like 12 or something.
right,
Um, so that's where I'm getting most of this um, information.
right. Well, I can't find it, but that's really cool
No, me neither. Yeah, I just like the idea of it being like a bit hodgepodge, like
though. Mm-hmm.
I think that's very cool. Also, all the children's drawings that they have stuck up are made by relatives of the art department. So
Yes,
people's kids or siblings.
they did that
And
quite
that kind of
often.
that's the same as yeah, I was going to say like in the Gryffindor common room that is
Yeah,
the same thing of things on the notice board.
yeah, I love
Yeah,
that.
and
I
then
love like I'm just looking at a few pictures and like every single chair
mhm,
is different.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that. I really want that for my kitchen.
Mm. A lot of the furniture and bits and bobs was from charity shops or
Yeah, it's all
like car
freestanding.
boot sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actual like secondhand things that they picked up,
Uh-huh.
which yeah, really.
I like that it gives the feel of if something breaks, like if a shelf in the bookshelf breaks, they're like, oh, we don't have to replace the whole bookshelf. Let's just replace one of the shelves. You know. If one chair breaks, let's just get another chair. We don't have to get the whole set.
Hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, that feeling of like, oh well, we can't get a whole new carpet for the stairs, but oh this bit's worn off, so we'll replace that, and like oh now this step's gone, so we'll
Uh-huh.
replace that, and same with the chairs, and the same with yeah,
Yeah.
very nice. And we saw this set at the studio tour. I forgot to mention that this is one
Mm.
of the sets that is on display.
The kitchen in
And all the
particular.
hmm, yeah, yeah, yeah. And all the special effects in terms of like the moving props and stuff, that's also really cool, like the knitting needles and the knife cutting the vegetables, and in the film you see the pan getting scrubbed.
Yeah, and
It's very cool.
the iron
The
moving
iron.
as well. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
I loved that the first time. Now it's getting a bit worn out from overuse, but when it worked really well, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still really cool. I think last time we went it was working quite well.
Yeah, you can, at the studio tour, you can move them. You can like press
Oh
buttons, and
yeah,
they'll,
sorry.
like, the knife. Yeah, I just realised we're not really giving any context. You can press a button, and then all those special effects, practical effects will move
Yeah,
in
you
the
can
set,
kind of
which is
activate.
really
I think
cool.
it's a sensor, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You
It's
like
like,
wave your
ooh,
hand.
magic. Oh, it was so nice. It was so nice going, like it just felt like walking in, and it felt like, you could be walking into them eating dinner and being like, what are all these people doing here in our kitchen?
Yeah. So, and then there I have a quote from Julie Walters, who obviously plays Mrs. Weasley, that I thought would be nice just to wrap it all up. She says, "It's gorgeous and homey. It's not about appearances or ambition or anything like that. It's about love and protection and care."
That's lovely.
Oh, very sweet, very nice. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Oh.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Harry didn't have, and now he's got that, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
not worry about clocks or
Um,
how they afford all of those bacon sandwiches. It's
yeah.
just nice.
Yeah, that's a great, yeah, it's just nice.
Yeah.
Okay, it's just nice. So that concludes this episode of Potterwatch from page to screen.
Keep twiddling those dials. Keep each other safe. Keep faith. Good
Good
night.
night. Hello, 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 hello.